So this is the elemental bodies part 2. And in the previous body, I talked about the things that you need to do in order to nurture the 4 elemental forms in order to create the etheric body. When people actively do magic, they are pulling upon the etheric body. Now, if you are not taking care of the 4 elemental bodies, and you use your etheric body to create rituals or to create manifestations of your desires, then you may end up sacrificing one of these bodies or 2 of them in the process, and then you end up what's called into a vacuum, into a negative space, and then you have to rebuild from scratch. So learning to be a powerful magician that consistently manifests one's desires is all about learning how to balance these first 4 elements. So with earth, it's always getting the right food, adequate rest, and learning how to nurture the body. Fire, how to act, exercise, or pranayama to make sure you stoke the fires of your pranic body, your fire body. Water is actively using empathy, which means learning and understanding from every person around you. In my previous video on the Hegelian dialectic, that specifically helps develop the water body. And air we learn through esoteric knowledge, philosophy, meditation. This video that you're listening to right now is actually helping you understand and build your air body through the esoteric knowledge that I'm giving you. And then through ritual or devotion to higher self, you can build your etheric body. Now, a lot of people don't want to take the time to build these 4 bodies. And from what I've noticed with men, they have a tendency to sacrifice their earth bodies, where women sacrifice their fire bodies. And I'll talk about that in this video. So, what does it look like when you sacrifice your earth body? This is when you stoke your energy through going to the gym, exercising, you're doing all these like physical exercises to build this fire, but you're not getting an adequate enough rest. Maybe you're not eating the right nutrition intuitively that is perfect for your ancestral body. A lot of people don't pay attention to the ancestral foods that their unique body needs. And they are also not taking the time to nurture their body and their nervous system. So they have a lot of fire. They have a lot of mania, anger. And you'll see that online with a lot of people who do low-level magic. They might be pretty aggressive online, and they'll have like very big eyes. You'll often see a lot of white around their eyes because their prana body is so hot. It's actually burning off a lot of the physical earth forms. And what ends up happening is they do a lot of crash and burn. So they might use the fire to feed this etheric body, but they sacrifice the earth and often burn off all their water. So they lose the ability to empathize with people. And that's where you get people who do operant magic and they have absolutely zero empathy. And they often create magic and scenarios that hurt not only themselves but other people, and eventually isolating themselves from humanity because nobody wants to deal with somebody who's just like a massive fire monster. Now, the opposite is true for a lot of women magicians. So because women, fire seems to be this acceptable domain for men, the action, exercise, getting out there. And earth, women are really good with earth, listening to their body for intuition, nurturing themselves, getting the adequate rest, understanding the food balance and the nutrition balance, and pulling through the wisdom of the nutritional ancestor, the ancestral nutrition that their their family passed down. A lot of women carry that knowledge. But because patriarchy shames women who are action-oriented, forceful, and pull that fire, a lot of women dampen their fire and they focus more on the water, the empathy, the understanding, but then they get stuck because they have a lot of water, they have a lot of earth, very, very fertile, but not a lot of fire. And so they can't really understand the esoteric knowledge and how to apply it because they are not doing enough action. They are not getting out there and exercising or doing pranayama or actually exerting their will into the world. They're afraid to to speak their truth. They're afraid to make waves in the spiritual community. They're afraid to upset people. And so they are this really fertile, inert, kind of like not moving. And what this creates is a vacuum of fire, which draws in a man, most likely a man or a masculine force that has a lot of fire, but not a lot of earth or water. And so a man comes in and feels this vacuum in a woman. She doesn't have a lot of fire, and he's like, ooh, I got a lot of fire, and she's got a lot of earth that I can abuse and burn up. And that's where you get a codependent relationship with a very fire heavy man and a very earth and water heavy woman. And she ends up presenting as very empathetic and codependent, and he ends up being very psychopathic, needy, and forceful. And the two of them together can sometimes balance out and create some etheric bodies between the two of them to create ideas for manifesting the future. But it is not sustainable, because the moment one person's energy changes, the connection breaks and becomes incredibly toxic and vampiric. So the key is, as a magician, as a woman, one of the challenges you will have is when you begin to stoke that fire and balance the earth, fire, water, and air bodies to create your etheric form to manifest your desires, immediately the men in your community are going to see you as a threat, because men are not used to fire women. They are not used to the fierceness and the power of a woman who speaks from her fire, her prana body. And that scares men, and they don't even realize it. Usually what they do is they just hate on her. And also all the other women hate on her because she appears as a monster to them. So this is one of the challenges with female magicians, is that they have to overcome a lot of social issues with regards to balancing these bodies. Now, with a male magician, and we see this in the lore of Odin, he had to learn the power of water and earth in order to be a complete magician. So he had to learn how to experience his emotions, to be nurturing to his body, to understand his ancestral foods. And because of that, he was seen as weak. So he had to deal with a lot of humiliation, and from both men and women, in order to build his etheric body. So both men and women have challenges in this, but their challenges are different. So I wanted to explain about the imbalances and why a lot of people, like for men, they will sacrifice their water and earth in order to manifest. And women will sacrifice their fire to manifest, because they don't want to do the complete work of balancing all their elemental forces so that they can be sovereign and independent in their own body and not dependent on another person. So this is the future. This is the future of both men and women learning to heal this balance. And it will happen. It is happening, and it will happen. But these are some of the challenges that you will come across when you work on balancing your 5 elemental bodies. I hope this explains sense and make some sense. And yeah, as always, be the difference. You got this. Magic is possible.